Under the cover of night, when attention was elsewhere and the region appeared momentarily still, an explosion occurred that was not supposed to exist in any official narrative. There were no alarms broadcast to the public, no urgent press conferences, no clear acknowledgement beyond carefully chosen words that revealed almost nothing. Instead, there was silence, and in the world of geopolitics, silence is rarely empty. It is often deliberate, calculated, and filled with meaning. The first signs did not come from government statements or state television. They came from fragments. A tremor felt by nearby residents, a brief glow on the horizon captured by distant cameras, disrupted signals. Then, just as quickly, nothing. Posts disappeared, accounts went quiet, roads were reportedly restricted, and Iran's official channels moved on as if nothing unusual had occurred. That absence of explanation became the story itself. Iran is no stranger to secrecy, especially when it comes to its most sensitive military and strategic locations. For decades, layers of ambiguity have surrounded certain facilities, sites that are discussed in whispers by analysts and monitored constantly by foreign intelligence. These places exist in a gray zone between what is acknowledged and what is denied. Any incident in or near such a location immediately draws attention, not because of what is said, but because of what is not. The silence following this explosion has unsettled observers for a reason. When governments face accidents, they often rush to minimize damage by providing a simple explanation. When they face attacks, they usually deny, deflect, or threaten retaliation. When they face something more complex, something that could expose vulnerabilities or trigger international consequences, silence becomes a shield. It buys time, it limits speculation internally, it allows narratives to be shaped behind closed doors. This particular silence feels heavier than usual. It arrived quickly and uniformly. There were no conflicting reports, no leaks from semi-official sources, no gradual evolution of the story. Instead, there was a firm absence. And that absence suggests that whatever happened touches something far more sensitive than an ordinary military mishap. To understand why this matters, it is important to consider the broader context. Iran exists under constant scrutiny. Sanctions, surveillance, diplomatic pressure, and covert actions have shaped its strategic behavior for years. Its military infrastructure has adapted accordingly, dispersing assets, hardening facilities, moving critical operations underground, and limiting information flow. An explosion in such an environment is not just a physical event. It is a strategic signal, whether intended or not. One possibility is that this was an internal accident, the result of technical failure or human error. Iran's infrastructure, particularly in highly specialized sectors, operates under intense pressure. Maintaining complex systems without access to international markets and technologies is challenging. Accidents happen everywhere, but accidents usually come with visible consequences: emergency responses, medical activity, logistical disruption. They are difficult to completely conceal, especially in the age of satellites and open-source intelligence. Another possibility is sabotage. The shadow war surrounding Iran's strategic programs has been ongoing for years. Cyber operations, unexplained fires, targeted killings, and covert strikes have all been part of this undeclared conflict. If this explosion was the result of external interference, acknowledging it would expose weaknesses and invite further actions. Denying it, or remaining silent, allows Iran to avoid escalation while quietly assessing damage and security failures. Then there is the possibility that troubles analysts the most, that the explosion was linked to an experiment, a test, or a project that went wrong, something that crossed a threshold, something that revealed risks Iran would rather keep hidden. In such cases, silence is not just about avoiding embarrassment. It is about preventing inspections, scrutiny, and renewed international pressure. It is about controlling the timeline of disclosure or avoiding disclosure entirely. International reactions to the incident have been cautious. There have been no dramatic statements, no emergency sessions announced publicly, but quiet diplomacy often speaks louder than televised speeches. Intelligence agencies have undoubtedly increased monitoring. Satellites have likely been tasked to revisit the area repeatedly. Analysts are comparing images, looking for changes in terrain, heat signatures, structural damage. When major powers grow quiet, it is often because they are gathering information, not because they are unaware. For the Middle East, this silence adds another layer of uncertainty to an already volatile environment. The region operates on perception as much as reality. Allies and rivals watch each other closely, reading between the lines. An unexplained explosion at a sensitive site, followed by silence, can alter threat assessments. It can prompt military adjustments that are never announced. It can increase the risk of miscalculation, where actions are taken based on assumptions rather than facts. Inside Iran, the silence may have its own consequences. Public trust in official narratives has been tested repeatedly over the years. When people sense that information is being withheld, rumors fill the void. Speculation spreads faster than any official denial. Silence intended to control the narrative can sometimes undermine it. The lack of explanation can create more anxiety than a difficult truth. What makes this incident particularly concerning is how it fits into a pattern. Over recent years, a series of unexplained events have targeted or affected Iran's strategic infrastructure. Each time, explanations have been partial, delayed, or inconsistent. Each time, the world moved on without clear answers. But patterns matter. When similar events repeat, they stop looking random. They begin to suggest systemic issues or sustained pressure. The real warning, then, is not just that an explosion occurred. It is that the response was silence. Silence suggests that the stakes are high, that acknowledging the full truth could invite consequences Iran is not prepared to face openly. It suggests vulnerability, not necessarily in terms of strength, but in terms of control over information, control over perception, control over escalation. In global politics, silence can be a pause before action, or a strategy to avoid it. It can mean internal deliberation, damage assessment, or negotiations conducted away from public view. It can also mean uncertainty, confusion, and fear of revealing too much. The longer the silence continues, the more questions it raises. For external observers, the challenge lies in interpretation. Overreacting to incomplete information can be dangerous. Underreacting can be just as risky. The lack of transparency makes it harder to assess intent and capability. It increases the likelihood of misjudgment. And misjudgment, in a region filled with advanced weapons and deep rivalries, can have serious consequences. This is why the silence matters more than the blast itself. Explosions happen, incidents occur, but silence, especially deliberate silence, is a choice. It reflects priorities, fears, and calculations. It signals that something has happened which does not fit neatly into any safe public narrative. As days pass without clarification, the story does not fade, it lingers. Analysts revisit past incidents. Comparisons are drawn. Scenarios are modeled. Quiet conversations continue in diplomatic and military circles. The absence of answers becomes a presence of uncertainty. In the end, the truth may emerge slowly through leaks, satellite imagery, or future disclosures. Or it may remain buried, another unresolved chapter in a long history of secrecy and speculation. But even if the details never become public, the impact of this silence will be felt. It will shape perceptions, influence strategies, and add to the sense that something beneath the surface is shifting. Iran's silence after this explosion is the real warning because it tells us that something occurred which could not be explained away easily, could not be denied loudly, and could not be acknowledged safely. In a world already strained by tension and distrust, that kind of silence is not reassuring. It is unsettling, and it reminds us that some of the most important signals in global affairs are not the ones that make noise, but the ones that do not.